This video is brought to you by artificial sweeteners and latex gloves. Alright, hey guys, in this one we're going to talk about training to recover from an injury. Step 1 to training to recover from an injury, make sure you're seeing a proper medical professional if the injury is severe enough. If the injury is minor and you don't need to see a medical professional, then you can consider doing something like this. As always, this isn't medical advice, this is just the theoretical underpinnings of injury prevention and recovery. Here's a 3-step framework to train to recover from injuries. Step 1, movement is key. Find movements that don't hurt the target area. If I hurt my quad during squats and squats cause a pinching, stabbing pain, I might want to try moving on to leg extensions, lunges, leg press, etc. Find the exercises that don't hurt, and that's where we're going to start. Your leg training is now made up of all of those exercises that don't hurt. Just know that if you really want to get over this injury and be stronger at the end of the journey, you're going to be in this for a minute. Step number 2 is we're going to start slow and not overdo it. And I'll tell you exactly what that means. You're going to start with 6 to 8 repetitions in reserve, meaning once you stop a set, you could have gotten 6 to 8 more reps. This is going to start feeling like a warm-up set, and it should at the beginning, because your injury is telling you that something is broken and not working right, and we need to build up resiliency through that tissue. If we decide to overshoot it and shoot for the moon and add a bunch of load to the bar, you're just going to make that injury worse, and then you're actually going to need to go to the doctor and be out for a while. Next, very, very slow eccentric movement. So as you're lowering the weight, bench press for example, I want you to control that weight. No bouncing out of the hole, no dive bombing it, slow down. Bonus points if you pause. One of the things that we know about injury is the forces where you change direction in a movement is a very high degree of force to the joint, and that can be a mechanism of injury. New movement patterns and high force velocities is the intersection that causes most injuries. If we can take that out by pausing and then pushing back up while controlling it, we're going to decrease our risk of getting more injured. All right, so we have our movements, we have our reps in reserve, which dictates our weight. How many reps should you be doing? Start with at least 12, pushing 15 or 20. Higher reps tend to be a little bit safer because we know high acute loads tend to be a little bit more injurious than not, at least by a little bit. Step 3, we're going to slowly progress over time. So week 1, you might be 8 reps from failure. Week 2, you're going to progress down to 7 reps from failure. You're going to do this by adding repetitions to the sets that you're doing. So if I was doing leg press for sets of 15, next week I'm trying to get 16. Next week, 17. Adding repetitions to our sets is probably the smallest unit of progression we can do, so we're likely not going to be overshooting it and increasing our risk for injury. Week to week, you're slowly going to decrease your RIR by adding reps and likely getting a little bit stronger during this time, so it's good news all around. Once you progress all the way down to around 3 to 4 repetitions in reserve, this is where you're going to take a deload or an active recovery week. All we mean by that is either a week off or a week where you're hitting much less sets and much less load in the gym. The purpose of this is to drop fatigue and making sure that we're still getting healing and promoting blood flow. If you've gotten to this point and you still don't have weird pain or weird feelings in the target area that was injured, congratulations. You're well on your way and you've completed step 1. Now that you've graduated to this point, we can be a little bit more aggressive, but not a lot. We're going to start our mesocycle at 3 reps in reserve. Still, through only repetition additions, we're going to progress almost like a normal mesocycle all the way down to roughly 1 repetition in reserve over time, again, making our progressions quite slow. This mesocycle might take 3 to 5 weeks. Again, if at any point you have pain or odd feelings in the injured musculature, you need to stop this and reevaluate. If you get down to 1 repetition in reserve, congratulations, you made it to the next step and you can deload. After this deload, you're on the final leg of your journey where you can progress through a mesocycle more normally, somewhere between 4 repetitions in reserve all the way to 0 repetitions in reserve, and you can do this with load adjustments like a normal mesocycle. What I would caution in this mesocycle, even though things seem normal, is I would hesitate to add volume aggressively in this mesocycle. So even though you're adding load to the bar week to week to decrease your repetitions in reserve, I wouldn't go adding sets week to week aggressively. Maybe a set here or there if pumps, disruption, and soreness are quite low, but I would not jump for sets of 2, sets of 3 from week to week. Those big jumps in stimulus can be injurious. We want to make sure everything's nice and healed before we start being aggressive. After you complete that 3rd mesocycle, it's likely that your injury is borderline completely gone, and the cool part about it is during this whole process, you got a crap ton stronger. Compare that with your friend that was just like, train harder, brother. And now he's snapped up and in PT for 12 weeks. Whereas at the end of this journey, you got stronger and you never had to leave the gym. Who would you rather be? Also, your friend that says train harder, brother, you might want to bring him a Mountain Dew or some other comfort food because he's probably sad right now while you're getting bigger and stronger and leaving him in the dust. It's just a nice thing to do.